Now, funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
You're tired.
Well, the lunchtime whistle and the morning's finally done. I'm jumping in my car, I'm gonna have a little fun. The Doghouse Network's on my radio dial. Big Dog's taking care of business for a while. If you're listening to another station I don't understand, 'cause nobody does it like Thom Abraham.
Give us a call, Steve.
He's a northern-bred, southern-fed, slick-talking guy. Listeners in his posse are the junkyard dogs. The SEC from Tennessee to calling them hogs. From Gainesville up to Lexington to the Titan Tiger Land, nobody does it like Thom Abraham.
I guess I'm on here. Am I on? Can somebody respond?
Wait, everyone, this is the Bandy Man Bailey. We're having a bit of a technical issue right now. Tom's not coming over the air. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have the technical issue fixed. So do not go anywhere. You're listening to the Thom Abraham Show on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
You're listening to the Thom Abraham Show on 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
Tom Luganbill here for my friends at Woody Anderson Ford. Bobby White and his team take great pride in their service department, and you can see it the moment you walk into those beautiful new service lanes. And just like a championship team, they all work together to make sure your experience is second to none, whether you drive a Ford or not. Also, check out the gold certified pre-owned inventory at Woody Anderson Ford for great deals every day. Stop by and see them at Jordan and Sparkman or at Woody Anderson of Madison on Hughes Road, or visit WoodyAndersonFord.com.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Reaction Monday in the Doghouse. And a little bit of a stumble there to start the thing off. All right, a little bit of a stumble there. I'll explain why in a moment, maybe. But it is great to be back in the saddle again. We got some catching up to do. All right, now we got things to look forward to in this short 3-day week before we hit the Independence Day holiday. Now, that'll be a 4-day weekend for us. And I'd rather look forward more than backwards. I'm not going to go back and recap everything that went on in the last week. I was at a mountaintop. I hardly was even on top of what was going on sports-wise, to be totally honest with you. I was in a cabin with a river running right by the cabin over here. I played a little golf at a spectacular golf course. Maybe I'll get that in. That's about it for the recap. I'm not going to go over Game 7 of the NHL Stanley Cup Final. I'm not going to go over Game 3 of the College Baseball World Series Final. It was a week ago. The boys took care of that for you last week. I'm just bringing you my heat. I don't know what it sounded like last week. I wasn't listening to the show. It was a legit vacation. It wasn't like I'm missing a game a day because of this, or I'm working for Bassmaster, or there's a day baseball game out. It wasn't like that. This was an actual vacation. And now it's over. But we do have 4-day weekend coming up. So that kind of worked out good. All right. But after the 4-day weekend, then we're going to lock in. Then we're locking in. And we'll have one full week for you in town before we head to Dallas for a week of SEC meetings in Dallas. Because, that makes sense. During All-Star Week festivities in Dallas, which is in Texas, home of the former Southwest Conference, which is now part of the Southeast. We've changed the map. So we have to go there. They're making us go there. Did I mention that the All-Star festivities are going on there as well? While we are there to talk SEC football on the outer edge of the SEC. You know, the All-Star break always falls during SEC Media Days, and we don't even pay attention to it because we're in Hoover, an hour and a half to the south, or we're in Nashville, an hour and a half to the north, or we're in Atlanta, 2.5 hours to the east. And we're not paying attention much to the All-Star weekend because it's SEC football talk. But we're going to be in the same town where the All-Star game is going on. In the home run derby and all of that stuff. It's crazy. So instead of making the hour and a half drive here, the hour and a half drive there, the 2.5 hour there, we got to fly to Dallas. Well, a couple of us are going to fly to Dallas. Some of the staff will be driving the 10.5 hours thanks to University Kia. I'll be in one of them University Kia rigs riding out there. I mean, this is kind of nuts. It'll be like a Telluride. This is kind of nuts, though. But it is what it is. And we will be there for all of it and officially welcome Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC after 3 long years. None of us will ever forget that day in Hoover, the final day of SEC Media Days in 2021, when word spread like wildfire that Texas and Oklahoma were joining the league. It seemed like a wild rumor at first, but soon it was verified. It was like it came whipping down like a hurricane. It came right down there on the radio row. Like, what? Huh? What? Texas and what? I didn't even have my State of the SEC talk yet with Greg Sankey. I was one of the lucky ones that got Greg Sankey after this news broke, because we always have Greg Sankey on the last day on my show. At least typically. That's the way it's been for, since pretty much ever. It wouldn't happen for 4 years, though. They said it was July of 2021, and the date was July 1st of 2025. And we're like, really? I mean, no one thought that was true. Most of us thought that you know what? They're going to be here next year. They'll be there. They're going to figure out a way. They will be there in 2022, or certainly by 2023. In the end, they came in a year early, 2024, and today is the day it becomes official. So welcome to the SEC, Texas and Oklahoma today, officially. And joining us on the show at the top of the one is George Stoya. I think that's how you say his last name. From Soonerscoop.com. I don't talk to a lot of guys about Oklahoma, you know what I mean? But we're adding him to our list. George Stoya from Soonerscoop.com, which is the Oklahoma On 3 site. He'll be joining us to talk about what the expectations are for the Sooners in 2024. They got a great schedule, but they got a tough schedule. Very difficult schedule at home when it comes to SEC teams. Tennessee is going there. South Carolina is going there. Alabama is going there. They'll play at Baton Rouge. Of course, they'll play Oklahoma in Texas in the third greatest rivalry. Okay, we'll go with third. Third greatest rivalry game. No. In the fourth greatest rivalry game in the SEC. That's right, I said it. The fourth greatest rivalry game in the SEC. It's not the Iron Bowl. It's not the cocktail party. And it's not the Deep South's oldest rivalry. It's not. Not bad, though. NASCAR was in Nashville, Lebanon, over the weekend. And they gave us a thrilling race yesterday that was marred by a rain delay, which blew my mind since I was at my daughter's house, which is about 10 miles from the track. And we didn't get a drop of rain. Never got a dropper. We heard a little roll. Oh, listen, a little bit of thunder. I wonder if something's happening. And then it was it. We're hanging out with my daughter, who is 15 months pregnant now. All right, 7.5 months pregnant. My 15th grandchild coming in, a grandson. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. My 5th grandson. No, 6th. 6th grandson coming in September. Labor Day weekend. Anyway, we were there with her and her husband, hanging out, chatting. No rain. 10 miles from the track. And apparently it rained like a cow pissing on a flat rock at the track. I didn't see that. I got in the truck to head back to Winchester with the Junkyard Babe. We got in the truck. I turned on the race on the radio, and they were in a rain delay. Worked out perfect for me. Got home in time to see the last couple of hundred laps and the overtime and overtime and overtime and overtime and overtime. Joey Logano getting the win after 5 overtimes, which is an all-time record. It was extremely racy and dramatic. Jordan Bianchi of The Athletic is coming up with a recap on that. All right, your phone lines are open, 256-5764-97.7. That'll get you into the show. It's going to be very interesting to see how this whole thing unfolds today. I'll tell you why in a moment. But that'll get you in. The text window, 7329TA show, 732-982-7469, which is a great way to communicate with us. My X feed is at Thom Abraham Show. Station's feed is at 97.7 ESPN. We're on Facebook at 97.7 ESPN. You get a link to the YouTube channel, which is at WZZN TV. Subscribe to that bad boy. Go to 97.7ESPN.com. Get links to all of that stuff. And while you're at it, get our apps. So you can get links to Zone 2, 3, 4, 5, as well, all our alternate streaming channels for more great programming. And snag the Talk Radio WZZN app as well for all your Trash Panda action. By the way, immediately after we get back from Dallas, we will once again host our high school football media days at Toyota Field on Monday, July the 22nd. Then the NFL camps get opened up, and we have a Hall of Fame game, and basically it's on. I mean, we have some other very exciting news that we'll be sharing with you in the coming weeks. Suffice to say, it's going to be a very busy summer here at the Word Factory. So now that I got my vacation in, we have sent Grizz home for the week for some R&R. He was in the shop this morning. Hopefully he's gone now. He needs to get some time off. So take the week off. We'll get the band back together next Monday. So in the meantime, handling the stacks of wax and answering the phones and keeping us on the air, well, kind of. Got the Bandyman in there.
Candyman, yeah, the Candyman can. Oh, the Candyman can, 'cause he mixes it with
Not
love
the
and makes
Candyman. That's not the Candyman. It's the Bandyman.
Just a pinch between my cheek and gum, and I get full tobacco pleasure. And since I don't light up, I can use it doing almost anything.
What is your name? Detective. It doesn't matter what your name is. Who in the blue hell are you?
I'm the producer of this show. If I didn't step up, you're nowhere. I put this thing together out of spit and polish.
I think this is one of the traits of a really good producer. Keep the talent happy.
The guy's an intern. You don't ever say that to me. Bullcrap. It really doesn't matter what you think. It really doesn't matter what you say.
I'm all jacked up on Mountain Dew.
If I were the man I was 5 years ago, I'd take a flamethrower to this place.
I could use a good ass kick, and I'll be very honest with you.
Underestimated from day one. You'd never think I was a master of the universe now, would you?
Roll time.
Dead on, balls accurate.
Satisfaction is guaranteed. Welcome.
Just a pinch between my cheek and gum.
Candyman, yeah, the Candyman can. Oh, the Candyman can, 'cause he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good.
It's not the Candyman. It's the Bandyman. All right. For those of you that don't know, several years ago, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, Bailey, when he went by Irish Cream, as I nicknamed him, when he was an intern, produced my show. So he was a producer before. What I don't understand is, Bailey, you've produced my show before. You've handled my show on remote. How is it that we couldn't get me out of here to start the show?
Well, I'm gonna attribute.
Yeah, I'm not hearing you at all.
Oh, you're not. Oh, you're not.
There you go.
Okay.
Now I am.
Okay. Program
I
one.
mean, you do know how to run that board,
yeah,
right?
Program
I'm
one
just
and
saying.
two. It has been a while. I may be a little bit rusty. I do apologize.
A brand new board, for God's sakes. We spent all this money on a brand new board. You're on the board every day with you and the Captain Cool.
Look, I'm actually just to actually talk about that. I'm glad you agree with me that you agree with me and that we agree that Oklahoma and Texas coming into the SEC is not even a top 3 rivalry. I'm glad we agree on that because me and John didn't this morning.
So what did John say? Where did he put it at?
Probably, I think around like top 2, maybe 1. I
No,
think he
he
put the
didn't
Iron
put it
Bowl up
ahead
top. I think he put the Iron
of
Bowl.
course he put the Iron Bowl on top. So he puts it ahead of Florida, Georgia, and Auburn, Georgia.
Yep.
I think it's probably ahead of Auburn, Georgia, maybe.
Actually,
but it's not ahead of the cocktail party.
I had Ole Miss, Mississippi State up there too with the Egg Bowl.
No, that's not ahead of the Egg Bowl. The Egg Bowl is like a JV rivalry game. I mean, talk about two teams that have no history. The Egg Bowl, you know what I mean? All that is the Egg Bowl. That's like, put that with like Civil War and other, that's a very much a secondary thing. We'll say this is 3 probably. It's probably just ahead of Auburn, Georgia.
Okay,
maybe.
I got a buddy that goes to Ole Miss. I'm a little bit biased.
Well, yeah, to him it's a big deal. The Egg Bowl is a big deal, but you got 2 teams that have never won a national championship. Well, I guess Ole Miss won something that half of one in the Johnny Voigt. But I mean, come on, the Egg Bowl is not Texas and Oklahoma. The Red River Shootout, which is what we're going to call it, which I will call it the Red River Shootout, even though I know it's the Red River rivalry. Let me get Paulie in here. Paulie is in Vegas, I understand. Let me get Paulie in. Let's see if the Bandy Man can get a caller on the line with me. Nip and tuck. Paulie in Vegas. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Welcome, Tom. I'm having a beautiful breakfast here in Sin City. Having a blast, except for getting hosed in tournaments. I went on slots. We went at the craps. And then get sucked out at these tournaments, man. It's just disgusting.
Poker tournaments, or have you been playing some poker tournaments?
Yeah, Texas WSOP and the Golden Nugget Series. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that why you went out there to play in the poker tournament?
Yeah, that's the primary reason is to go play the tournaments. Yeah, the Colossus is the last one we're going to play. And then go back home.
Well, how can you say getting hosed? I mean, you're getting hosed because they,
Let me put it this way: the old lady's chip stack because she caught a card on the river the hand before. I got king queen suited. The flop comes out with a king, right? I raise. She calls. Turn card is nothing. I raised. I bet again 3,000. She calls, and I'm like, is she going to show me ace king really? So I check on the river. The river card is like a 5, and she shows king 5.
Oh my gosh!
And I king queen suited. I didn't catch the flush draw. I needed a flush draw. I mean, it's just stuff like that, and you're going, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
Like you called and called, but she was chip stacked, so she, it wasn't threatening her. But I'm like, that chops me in half, and then another card. You catch a flush. I flop a flush, and the guy sitting there with the ace of diamonds calls me, and then I go all in, and he catches a diamond on the river. I'm like, oh, my God. Yeah.
Yeah.
A $200 tournament here, $200 tournament here, $150 tournament there, $400 tournament. It's like,
that's why they call it, that's why they call it gambling. You know what I mean? A gambling, unless you're good at really counting you got to count you got to count the box. You got to know what's coming next.
Hold on. Tournament poker is not quote unquote gambling. Cash game playing poker is gambling. There's a different pain when you have $100 tournament, you get hosed on the river. You only lost 100. You get hosed on the river.
You're still gambling.
1,100. I understand that, but it's not like, hey, why did you do that? And you gambled $900 on that hand. There's a difference of the focus gambling. You know what I'm saying? It's playing.
So how many chips in a $200 game, a $200 buy-in? So what did he give you for chips to start?
You get 40,000 chips in a $200 tournament.
$40,000 worth of chips, basically.
Yeah, well, the
40,000
denominations
in
of the
chips,
chip is 40,000, but you're not going to cash
total.
out all of a sudden and get 40
Right.
back. No.
What is it to win a $200 buy-in tournament? What would it be to win?
The payouts, the one I was in was a $50,000 guaranteed purse. So first place gets about 12, 13,000, maybe 15 grand with any rebuys.
For $200.
And then
Not bad.
Yeah, for $200. If you make the money table, you're going to get about $3 grand. If you make it to ninth place, you'll get about $3 grand back.
That's very similar to the fishing tournaments I go on, which are very much like gambling. We have an entry fee, and then you go gamble. Yeah.
Hey, you want to play $10 toss, playing whatchamacallit, I can't think of the name. I'm going to blank. But when you toss it, when you toss against the corn, the wall with quarters, pitching quarters. You want to go $5?
Pitching pennies. Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean that's gambling there.
So if I had a poker tournament, if I had a charity poker tournament with great prizes, but all the money, would go to charity, you think we could drag your ass up here to, to the Dirty South to come and play in a poker tournament, or what?
As long as Breeze Airways makes it to Huntsville from.
By the way, yeah, Breeze Airways does. I just heard a commercial on from the Huntsville airport that said Breeze Airways. How is that Breeze Airways? I mean, is that good to fly?
Awesome.
I mean, that's not like okay.
It's awesome. It is awesome. Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's it. It flies on Wednesdays and Saturdays. I got a $200 round trip ticket to Vegas. So
wow,
I'm
that's
just telling you, it's awesome. They're awesome. The planes are nice. Nothing's cruddy. You might get a packed plane, but I don't know about the actually going to Huntsville. But it's a great flight. It's a great airline, and the prices are really, really affordable. Especially if you keep watching. You log on, you become on their site, and they give you alerts. Like I got the alert where it said 35% off. So with the $40 credit I had from the Las Vegas, I got a $200 flight to Vegas.
That's good.
So yeah, man. Did you see my picture? Did you?
I
guys
did. I
decide
saw that.
Which one I wanted to play with first?
Yeah, I saw that. That was pretty funny.
All right, hey, by the way, before I go, how about them Yankees? And remember, everybody in Radio Land, now the games after 4th of July All-Star break, they're going to start counting.
But they all count. They all count. I wish they weren't. They've been stumbling around. They're like 2-8 in their last 10. Yeah, they got to stop stumbling around.
Ever since ESPN became existent, well, now the games are important now. Oh my God!
No, every game. The game one counts just as much as game 162. Yeah.
They're the ones who coined it. Oh, these are important. These are precious. These are valuable now. Oh my goodness. Well, I don't get involved until after the All-Star break.
Not going to give away. Not going to give away any of those 52 wins that they got already. I'm not going to give any of those away.
And your prediction may come true, where you said, "Hey, the year before they suck canal water, the following year they win the World Series." And barring any bizarre injury, I think we might be, pulling it out this year.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I don't like the way they've played the last 3 weeks, but we'll see.
Well, let's stop being a wet blanket. Come on.
All right. Appreciate you.
Go Dolphins.
All right. Good job, man. The Braves have been stumbling around. They're playing 500 baseball the last couple of weeks. Now they're 8 games back of the Phillies, just past the halfway point of the season. The Yankees, who got off to a torrid start, have also stumbled. They're now tied with the Orioles in the AL East. But Aaron Judge has been absolutely out of his mind. After the worst first month of his career, in March and April, the dude hit 206 with 6 home runs. He hit 361 in May, 409 in June, added 25 home runs and 64 RBI. Dude is looking at 60 home runs and 150 RBI while he's hitting 316. Might be the first Triple Crown winner from the Yankees since Mickey Mantle. Let me get Wolverine Dan in here quick. Wolverine Dan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Well, there's one thing that you can count on, and it's not a gamble. The greatest rivalry of all time, Michigan and Ohio State. You know it. Everybody else knows it.
Yeah, not really.
Come on. I mean, you take a poll for the whole country from east to west to north to south, I guarantee you it's going to be that.
But how often does the team that wins that game go on and win the national championship?
Well,
Not
you're
very
going to
often.
get used to it because Ohio State or Ohio State are going to win it this year. So you just better get used to it. It's about to come back. It's coming back already. Okay, yesterday, and then last year, of course, it was Michigan winning the national championships. The time it is what it is. Here's
The last big game that Ryan Day won will be the next one because, you know.
Yeah, and that's going to be a national championship. Now, here's my question to you. When does this SEC Media Day start?
July the 15th.
In that whole week, right?
Yeah, well, except for Friday.
I'm going
but
to
yeah.
X out that week. I'm Xing that week out.
Why would you X that week out?
I ain't going to listen to all that crap. I'm not an SEC guy. You guys know it's Big Ten, baby. And the people that straddle the
Big
fence.
Ten. The Big Ten has like a Big Ten has like a luncheon. The Big Ten has like a luncheon. I mean, that's it. The Big Ten Media Day is like a lunch. They're like, hey, let's get together for 15 minutes.
Hey, you know what? And they're in the down south here, lunch is big. You know that. There's a lot of people eat lunch around here. They go to restaurants. You know that. So that's a big thing. But the bottom line is this, Tom. You know, it is what it is. Okay, you have your SEC days and whatnot. Congratulations on getting Oklahoma and Texas. They're both good teams. And I like what we got, too. We got some quality teams, too, that come to our place. I just don't like to travel halfway across the world to go see them.
Yeah. I hear you.
All right, man. Well, it's been real, Tom. I'm glad you're back.
All right.
It's
good to be back.
Tom. You got to go play that golf game.
Let me tell you something, my friend. Let me tell you something. I played a course called Old Toccoa Farms. It was rated the number 8 new course in the country in 2022. I'm going to tell you about it a little bit later on because I got to get to Jordan Bianchi.
Okay.
But Old Toccoa Farms, it's about 2 hours from your front stoop there, and it is spectacular. 50 years I've been playing golf. 50 years, and it's the best thing I've ever stepped foot on. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Well, real quickly, and I know you got to go, but real quickly, another update on courses. Cypress Lakes is the best so far of all of them, Tom. It's in phenomenal shape. So if you all get the card because Cypress Lakes is a quality course right now, the best one so far.
Where is Cypress Lakes?
That's way in the heck out there. It's I don't know, past Moulton, way out there.
Cypress Lakes? Never even heard of that.
It's on your golf card.
I don't have a golf card, you knucklehead.
Yeah.
Buying somebody else had a golf card. You bought the golf card from somebody else. My old place. Not here. We don't do a golf
I buy
card.
it from you. Yeah, at the beginning of the year, you sell them. You know you do.
We didn't do a golf card. We didn't do a golf card.
Yeah, you did. Anyway, I'm not going to argue with you. Okay, first day back. Congratulations. I'm glad you had a good time, and you're safe. You're home. That's all that matters. See you.
All right, appreciate you. Why am I looking at some of these flights? They're so cheap. Oh, wait a minute. That's Nashville. Nashville to Dallas. Oh, my gosh. What a difference. Holy schmoly. You can fly Nashville to Dallas for $120. Huntsville to Dallas, $552. That's whacked.
It's like $400 more.
Oh, my gosh. That's crazy. I better tell the big guy that. All right, let's get a break. When we come back, Jordan Bianchi from The Athletic. He's next. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
.97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, The Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandyman. At noon, it's The Thom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the 5th straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Here at 6:05 Eastern, 5:05 Central on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
College football.
The ball is caught. It is a touchdown.
Major League Baseball.
That ball is gone. A home run.
This is your place for complete sports coverage all year long. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
And welcome back, Thom Abraham Show. The segment of the show is brought to you by the service department at Woody Anderson Ford. And I'm not 100% sure they may or may not have taken care of Joey Logano's number 22 Ford Mustang out there at the track yesterday. Probably not. But, you know, if you need your Mustang serviced, you need to take it to the Woody Anderson Ford's award-winning service department for routine checkups, or even if there's major work that you need done. You know, if you have a bigger problem, their expert service technicians can quickly diagnose it and use state-of-the-art tools to resolve it. Services include all kinds of preventative maintenance and plus major jobs as well. They do a tremendous job. And based on the way they were wrecking in the record 5 overtimes last night at in Nashville, certainly the body shop at Woody Anderson Ford is going to be pretty busy, I would think. Joining us now to talk about it from The Athletic, motorsports writer Jordan Bianchi. He is on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. Jordan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on, man. Appreciate it.
So when did Nashville Super Speedway turn into Bristol? Because that's what it looked like down the stretch. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, that was it was an interesting race because like the first part of it was just like, yeah, okay, this isn't really kind of hoping to turn out how we hoped, and then the second half had a lot of good racing, competitive, a lot of passing, and all the things you want to see, and then obviously we saw the 5 overtimes. And then once you got that one caution, you know, with a couple laps to go, and Denny Hamlin said it best, it was like once you had that one caution, you knew the second and the third and the fourth were going to keep coming because that's just how it goes in these situations where everybody is desperate, everybody's hungry, and everybody's trying to fight tooth and nail for every spot, and in some cases the win, and you get what you had. And it was, you know, I didn't have an issue with it. I know there's a couple people like, well, yeah, it wasn't the best showcase. Like, I don't know. I mean, these guys they weren't doing anything bad. They were just being very aggressive and going for it. And you want to see that in that situation. And honestly, I thought the drama was pretty rich.
I thought it was fantastic. I mean, it's racing. I mean, we went through years. The first 10-year iteration of Xfinity Series racing that went on at that track at Nashville Super Speedway was never very competitive. And, I mean, this was very competitive, even without all the wrecking. I mean, you just take the 5 overtimes out of there. It was racy, you know. I mean, the beginning, not so much. But, I mean, look, every track seems to be that way these days. These guys have figured out you just cut laps until you get to the point where it's going to get racy. But I thought that you know, guys were popping out. They were making moves. There was multiple grooves. It was good, and the track hasn't changed. Those that are thinking that they haven't done anything there to the track other than cut the weeds down and trim the grass up and paint it up nice. So it's got to be the car, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the car. I mean, this car, listen, it's got some issues. There's no doubt about it, you know, especially on short tracks. But on intermediate tracks, which is what Nashville is, this car is phenomenal. And we have seen races at mile-and-a-half racetracks. You pick one, Kansas, Charlotte, Vegas, Texas. It doesn't matter. This car produces phenomenal racing. And that race yesterday is indicative of that. Like you said, Nashville isn't a track with a reputation for being this great, you know, venue of excitement. But yesterday, it showed like, hey, this car can put on a good show. Everything you described is accurate. And it was a very entertaining race. Even without anything that happened at the end and the cautions or anything else, you still got a very good finish because Ross Chastain was leading, Denny Hamlin was tracking him down, and you had this kind of little cagey game of cat and mouse there and how they were going to race each other and what they were going to do. And, you know, Hamlin overdrove a corner and then Ross overdrove a corner. And it was like everything you want to see out of stock car racing on an intermediate racetrack. So I was very pleasantly surprised, and it unfolded much differently than I anticipated, and I thought, especially at the beginning of the race. But by the end of the race, even before the overtimes, it felt like a very satisfying race.
Yeah. Jordan Bianchi with us here talking about the race at Nashville last week, or yesterday, I should say. And, then you add the Larson Hamlin, drama as well. I mean, we're going to get a restart with Larson on Hamlin's tail, and then we're going to get a restart with him up front, and then his car doesn't go, he basically running out of gas, and you were wondering, Hamlin had gotten such a great restart on that one when Larson was right behind him. You were wondering if Larson could get to him, whether or not we'd see a little bump and run. And it never really developed because they were wrecking behind him. And, so that add that drama to it as well. And I don't know what's going on with those two cars, but they're like magnets. I don't know how they keep finding each other out there on the track.
I don't know either, but it's great, and we've seen it a few times this year. We've seen it a few times last year, and it's like this rivalry between these guys. And I know they're both kind of resisting calling it a rivalry, if you will, but it's certainly, I don't know what other words you'd use, right?
Yeah.
And it's great, and that added to the drama because it was like Larson is kind of reached his breaking point, if you will, where he's just done with it. Like he is done kind of being used up by Denny on a regular basis, and we saw that yesterday for the first time where Larson kind of gave it back, and that's not like Kyle at all. And to your point, you were right. Like that overtime when you had Larson right in that mix, you're like, oh, this is interesting, and how is this going to play out? And Larson seemed to really be aggressive on that restart, maybe probably overly so, if you will, where if he would have exercised maybe a smidge more patience, he might have been better off. But you give him credit for going for it, right? And he did, and it didn't work out, and then he ended up getting Chastain. But yeah, that the underlying drama that is Denny Hamlin versus Kyle Larson is great for NASCAR if this continues down this road where this kind of continues to be a weekly thing, because NASCAR is better when you've got two superstar drivers who are racing for wins and the championship, and they just have this, I don't say dislike because they are friends off the racetrack, though that friendship may be getting a little crazy.
Are they?
A little bit. But it's good for NASCAR. You need this because when's the last time we had something like this? And that's when the sport is better. So hopefully this continues.
We need a few more white hats, though. It can't just be Chase Elliott. I mean, it's kind of comical to me because nobody likes Kyle Busch, I mean, and then he gets all wrecked up, near the end there, and he's trying to get that 20th straight year with a win, and so I'm trying to gauge crowd reaction to that. I don't know what you can hear from the press box, but then Denny Hamlin, I don't think anybody likes Denny Hamlin anymore. I mean, and when he has to finally go to the pits to get gas, I think after the third overtime, it sounded like the crowd was cheering that he was now gone from the thing. Logano is my guy. I like Logano, but apparently Logano's still not very much liked, going all the way back to the very beginning of his career. And I was trying to gauge whether or not they were cheering or how much booing there was when he went and grabbed the checker flag, when he won. What were you sensing out of the crowd there? Were there more cheers than boos for Logano's win? Or, I mean, it seems like they don't like anybody now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they don't like Denny Hamlin. Denny Hamlin has definitely embraced being the villain, and he's wearing the black hat, and good for him, because not a lot of drivers are willing to do that, but Denny certainly is, and NASCAR is better for it. Kyle Larson has certainly kind of evolved into this fan favorite, him doing the double and everything else. Like the cheers for Larson nowadays are just, they're louder than Chase Elliott. I will tell you that right now. And Logano thing is interesting. It seems, there was a point in Logano's career where he's still at that point. He still gets boos during driver introductions. It's not maybe to the volume that once was, but there are quite a few people that are on Logano's side. And I think, part of it too is that, he wasn't Denny Hamlin.
Yeah.
And so some of the response last night to him winning was the fact that he wasn't Denny Hamlin, because people kind of seemed resigned to the fact that it was going to be Denny's race to lose. And then when he pitted, obviously, he basically was giving up that chance to win. So Logano's response though was interesting, because I always thought, we hear a lot of fans like, I like Dale Earnhardt, and I am not comparing Dale Earnhardt to Joey Logano necessarily, but there are some similar characteristics. Like Logano is a very aggressive driver. He will go for it. He is unabashed. He's not going to apologize for putting a bumper to you and going for a win. Like, if that's what fans want to see out of a driver, then Logano should be your guy. And it does amaze me that he doesn't have more fan support, or at least kind of this underground support, kind of like Earnhardt did. Like a lot of people hated Earnhardt, but a lot of people loved him. You would think more people would like Logano than they do.
Well, you wonder what it'll be like another 3-4 years. I mean, these guys retire early now, compared to back, now the window is, 44, like what we're seeing. It seems like every year somebody is stepping aside at a pretty young age. So, relatively speaking, I mean, it's, that's from Martin Truex, I think, is 44 years old, and he's hanging it up as well. But yeah, you're right. They hated Earnhardt. Everybody thinks everybody loved Earnhart. They hated Earnhardt for years and years and years, loved him at the end of his career. I bet Logano will be loved at the end of his career. They hated Jeff Gordon. You remember for 100 years they hated Jeff Gordon, and then at the end of his career, I think he was very much more loved. But Logano, 110 laps on the last. He must have had fuel everywhere. I have a son that's very much into NASCAR, and he texted me during the race, and he's like, "How did he go 110 laps?" I said, "Well, back in the 70s, there was rumors that Richard Petty used to have an extra gallon and a half of gas in his roll cage, and he had a little petcock he would open up and let the extra gallon in." I don't know what Logano was doing. It's a Ford Mustang, so, that's part of it. They get great mileage. But, I don't know what he did, but 110 laps was ridiculous that he was able to go that long on one load of fuel.
Yeah, I made that joke last night on the podcast I do, the teardown, where I said, it's like a Smokey Yunick thing, right? Like he's hiding gas somewhere in the roll cage somewhere, and NASCAR is going to find this as they tear down the car. He didn't. I just want to make sure the car passed inspection. But to go 110 laps, which is about roughly 30 laps longer than what the estimation is crazy insane. Obviously, there was a lot of cautions, which certainly helps a lot. Logano also didn't have the fastest car yesterday, and so because you're not running the same speeds as the leaders, you are saving more fuel necessarily. So a lot of things happened. It just kind of worked out, and I will bet dollars to donuts if you said to Joey Logano today, you got to go 110 laps on this tank of fuel. I don't know if he could, to be honest with you. In the same, it just was kind of I don't want to say it's a once in a lifetime thing, but a lot of things had to fall in place yesterday, and I just don't know if that's going to happen again.
He couldn't afford to drop out either. I mean, that's what was really risky, is because on points he was barely hanging on to the end of the playoff list. Now, on the other hand, now he's locked in, but man, what a risk that was for him. Now, when you're a two-time champion, I mean, it's not like life and death, but still, that could have been devastating for him.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And it was a situation, and I will say, because of their point situation, it almost kind of made their bed for them in a sense of let's just go for it. What do we really have to lose? Yeah, we could lose some points or anything, but we've got an opportunity here to get a win. We desperately need a win to make the playoffs. This is our chance. Let's just go for it and ride it until we can. And they did. It worked out in their favor, and that's say what you will about the playoff system, and I am a proponent of it. I like it. I think it really adds to the drama and the excitement. But it creates situations like this, which is good, where guys are like, hey, hell with it. I'm going for the win. Forget points. I want the win. And you get moments like we saw last night. And it even extends to Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin a little bit in their situations, whereas they were already locked in the playoffs. They know they have wins in their back pocket. They can go for it too, because they're like, you know what, if we don't make it, we don't make it. And it does add another layer of drama, which maybe necessarily wouldn't have been there.
So how many races do we got left here now before the playoff is set?
We have, off the top of my head, 7.
Oh, okay. So there's time for some of these guys that are hanging out. They're making it sound like with Kyle Busch and some of the other guys that the clock is ticking, but they still got plenty of time to get in there. That's for sure. And we'll see how it all shakes out. All right. What do you know about who's going where from Stewart-Haas? I heard, is Chase Briscoe going into the Joe Gibbs car, the Martin Truex car? Is that true? What else going on?
That's been announced. Martin Truex Jr. is going to retire at the end of the year.
Right.
Then Chase Briscoe is going to replace him. The other 3 drivers, Ryan Preece, Noah Gragson, Josh Berry, are very much up. Well, their status is still TBD, though I will say this. Josh Berry is very close to signing with a team, and he will be racing in the Cup Series next year full time. Noah Gragson is also having serious contract negotiations with another Cup Series team, so he will also very, very likely will be in the Cup Series next year. So both Berry and Gragson are in good spots and probably going to land in competitive situations. Ryan Preece's situation is very much unsettled. Looking at the landscape in the Cup Series, it's hard to see where he's going to land. And it looks like probably taking a step back to the Xfinity Series and running full time there is probably his best bet.
What happens to these iconic numbers in these cases? Because 4, 14, 10, those are all big time numbers with history in NASCAR. What will happen to those numbers when Stewart-Haas shuts it down officially?
Yeah, they're essentially just up for grabs. So if a new team comes along and says, hey, I want to be, if 4 is available, I can do 4. That's the reality. It is because if the team is gone, that's it. And if you look at it, Denny Hamlin runs the 11, for a long time, for years and decades. That was Junior Johnson's team, right? That was the number. And then Junior's team went away, and then Joe Gibbs Racing a few years later decided, hey, we're going to start a team. We're going to have number 11. And it's the 43. It's a perfect example of that. And now it's the legacy team. And, that used to be Petty's number. And, they're really – the unfortunate reality is there's just not a lot of continuation. You have the 3. You've got the 21 with the Wood brothers. You've got the 24, obviously, with Hendrick. But there's, that's off the top of my head, I think that's about it in terms of generational year to year. Everything else has just changed so much, and that's unfortunately the way it is.
And Hendrick kept the 48, and then, of course, the Chase Elliott went into the 9, which was his daddy's number, so that made kind of sense there. But it'll be interesting to see, what happens with those numbers, because those are some – you're talking about A.J. Foyt and, of course, Tony Stewart won a Cup championship in the 14 as well. That number, can't go away. It'll be interesting to see how it all shakes out. Chicago comes up now next week. It's a little bit unfortunate in as much as that we get this great racing and we want to see another oval race, and we're going to see Chicago, which basically is a parade for all intents and purposes. Oh, it's cool, and it was cool the first time. It reminds me of IRL in Nashville. It's just not very racy. I don't know where you're going to pass there, and but they seem committed to it, and they're going to go there, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Yeah, the backdrop of the downtown racing in Chicago is an interesting sight. And last year's race, unfortunately, was plagued by these historic rain, and it washed away a lot of the buzz and excitement. So you hope NASCAR goes to Chicago for a second time. You hope the weather cooperates and NASCAR can put on an event that is worthy of this. And there was a lot of questions and uncertainty about whether this could be pulled off last year. And I will say, they did it. The drivers were enthused. The drivers were excited. The racing they will tell you, was much better than they thought. There was more passing opportunities. The track wasn't as narrow as they expected. And so, now you hope to get a race where you don't have to worry about rain and anything else, and you can really showcase this. Is this a long-term thing? No, let's not kid ourselves. This is probably a 3-year thing at the most, and that's how it's going to be. But to have this opportunity to race downtown in terms of, visibility and marketability and all of the things that are important to, sports in general, it's on 4th of July weekend too. This is a good opportunity for NASCAR.
Jordan Bianchi always does a tremendous job. Check him out at The Athletic, covering all sorts of motorsports there. We did hear somebody chirping about, Nashville should have 2 races. They should have one at the fairgrounds and one at the super speedway. And that's all wonderful pie in the sky stuff. But I don't know. I've got a lot of friends in Nashville, and, I love the fairgrounds, but it seems like they've taken a step backwards. Any thought that the fairgrounds 2 years ago, it seemed like it was imminent that there was going to be, NASCAR back at the fairgrounds, and now it seems like it's going in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I when they announced that they were going to return to Nashville Super Speedway, I said, hey, let's do the Tennessee 2-step. Let's race at one track on a Friday night, and let's race on the other track on a Sunday, and let's just knock this out. That would be cool, right? And make put some big cash money up. If you sweep both races, you win this big, you win a cash bonus. But the reality is, it's not in the foreseeable future. Unfortunately, as much as everybody in the industry wants to be at the Nashville Fairgrounds, it is an iconic venue. The racing is tremendous. It needs so much work in terms of infrastructure and everything else. And until that support comes from the city, and it's not going to happen. Now, you have a company in Speedway Motorsports who owns one venue at the Super Speedway, and it said, like, hey, we are willing to spend the money necessary to make the fairgrounds up to code, and we can race here. And I don't know the politics. You can speak to it better than I can. It doesn't make sense to me why this can't go forward, but yet here it is, and it's just you're in this mad limbo, and instead of being on the cusp of returning to the National Fairgrounds, because the original timeline was going to be 2025, we're sitting here going, at the best case scenario is 27 at this point, and it just doesn't feel like that's even realistic.
Absolutely. All right, always a pleasure. Jordan Bianchi's been our guest. Thanks, Jordan.
Talk to you later, my friend. Talk to you.
We're going to get a break in here. When we come back, we'll wrap up hour number 1, set you up for hour number 2 next, right here on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
.97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandy Man. At noon, it's the Thom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the 5th straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Segment of the Thom Abraham Show is brought to you by the Orthopedic Center, where thousands of area residents have received world-class care from the Valley's most trusted and experienced group of orthopedic surgeons and medical specialists. TOC services the Huntsville, Havoc, Alabama A&M, and most of the high schools in the region, with 13 locations throughout the Tennessee Valley. So if you have an orthopedic problem and are considering professional care, it's TOC, the only logical choice. And it doesn't matter whether it was a work-related injury or you got sideline playing the sport you love. Doesn't matter. You need the best care, the best physicians, and the best facility to get you back in the game. That is the Orthopedic Center. TOC. Stay in the game, I said, with TOC. All right, coming up at the top of the hour, we are going to be joined by George Stoya. I think that's how you say his name, Stoya. I'm going to have to ask Bandy Man whether or not that's the way you say his name or not. He's from Soonerscoop.com, and we're going to talk about the expectation on this day, the day in which officially Oklahoma and Texas become SEC members. We are going to talk to him about the Sooners' expectations for this upcoming season. And by the way, speaking of dates and historic dates, 37 years ago today, 37 years ago today, before the Bandyman was born, before Captain Cool was born, before Coach Grizz was born, 37 years ago today, 24-hour sports talk radio was launched. July 1, 1987, at the Fan, WFAN, in New York City, featuring Mike Francesa and Chris Russo, Mike and the Mad Dog, the first 24-hour sports talk radio station launched 37 years ago today. All right, coming up next, George Stoya, Soonerscoop.com, right here on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
.97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandyman. At noon, it's the Thom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the 5th straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Formidable big threes in recent NBA history. They agreed with their top free agent target, forward Paul George, on a 4-year, $212 million max contract, reports ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. They also agreed on a 5-year, $204 million max rookie extension with guard Tyrese Maxey coming off a breakout all-star season. Thunder adding a new anchor inside, signing former Knicks big man Isaiah Hartenstein, 3-year, $87 million contract. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, a linchpin at both ends for the Nuggets the last 2 years, gets 3 years, $66 million from Orlando. Tough to find anybody who's had a better week than Sam Reinhart. The Panthers forward scored the game winner last Monday night against the Oilers in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Final, and now he's agreed to an 8-year, $69 million contract to remain with Florida.
WZZN, Union Grove, Huntsville, Alabama. 97.7 ESPN, The Zone. Sports Talk, 24/7, 365. Your full-time sports station.
You're doing a great job. Keep up the good work.
Is 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Doesn't anyone do any work around this joint anymore?
You need to be more like a dog. Like what you guys are doing. You've got your fingertip on the pulse of your listeners. Guys know what they're talking about. Be a dog. God bless the show. You are the Messiah. We need more dogs. This is the best show on radio.
The big dog, Thom Abraham, is here with you.
Hey, I see you. Hey, I see you, dog.
So settle in and get your bark on.
That's my dog.
Now live, Here he is, the big dog. Let's go, baby! Thom Abraham.
How you doing? 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 How you doing?
Look, I don't speak Spanish.
I don't know how to say this, so I'm going to choose my words very carefully. I think you're a psycho.
Do you know who I am?
I mean, that guy sounds like El McPherson farting into Miles Davis' trumpet.
I guess I'm on here. Am I on? Can somebody respond?
Get off my lawn.
I have to drag my Yankee ass out of here.
And welcome back, hour number 2 of the Thom Abraham Show here on a truncated week, a 3-day week for us. We'll be hitting the 4-day weekend coming up, of course, for the 4th of July on Thursday, and then we're off on Friday. We'll be back on Monday, but we are with you right now. And if you are listening in Alabama or in Tennessee or in Florida, North Alabama Mortgage has the answer for you when it comes time for that new home purchase. And don't put it off just because you're scared a little bit of rate, because when the rate drops, the prices are going to go up. So you buy now, you get the best price, and then you refi when that rate comes down. And if you're looking at a home improvement, same thing. Use your equity now and then refi later, and you can even use equity in your home to eliminate consumer debt forever. That's much higher than whatever interest rate that you're going to get on your refi, and then you can refi again to a lower rate as soon as those rates come down. Go to NorthAlabamaMortgage.com to learn more about that. All right, coming up after our show today, Paul Feinbaum's show will originate from Oklahoma, right outside of McCaslin Fieldhouse, and he'll be there all afternoon. He's got all the coaches on and everything else. Now, I don't know that he's going to have George Stoya on. We have George Stoya on here from Soonerscoop.com, the On3 site, to talk about what the actual expectations are as they party hardy in Norman, Oklahoma, as today is the official welcoming of the Oklahoma Sooners and the Texas Longhorns to the SEC. And George joins us now on the Neighbors Wealth Management Hotline. George, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good, Tom. How are you guys doing? I know it's a big day here in Norman.
Yeah, it does seem like that. I mean, my gosh, just give the folks a little bit of a feel for what's going on there, because there's events going on all day long in this, this special day in Norman as they make their entree into the SEC.
Yeah, they basically are just throwing a big party here in Norman. It kind of started last night. They had a 5K run that started at 11 p.m. and finished at midnight as they kind of ran into the SEC, as they called it, and kind of had a big fireworks show at 12:01 last night as they officially entered the SEC. And then today started off with some pep rallies this morning that have kind of worked their way into the afternoon here on campus. They've got a big equipment sale with a bunch of merchandise, for clearance sale and stuff like that. And then tonight they've got obviously some big concerts, kind of like Texas did yesterday. I know they had Pitbull. I don't think Oklahoma has somebody as big as Pitbull, but just kind of a big party here in Norman today. Kind of tough because it is a Monday, but I do expect campus to get pretty busy. It already is pretty busy right now. I know people are excited to go watch the Feinbaum show starting at 2 here on campus. I'll be on there later this evening as well, but I know people are starting to really filter in. I'm sure it'll get even more busier tonight as the celebration continues.
Well, that's a little bit. Oh, you are going to be on. There it is, 5:30. You're going to be on there along with Eddie Rodasevich on the Feinbaum show. So I got you before Paul got you, and I'm glad about that. You can let him know that you say I was on the Thom Abraham show before I was on your show, Paul. So we got the scoop on that. That's good. All right, so. And you get Paul before Texas gets Paul, right? I mean, I don't know. I think he was off last week. I'm not sure. But, I mean, he, being there today, that's a little bit of a scoop because I know you guys compete with Texas over everything.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think Paul was maybe part of a show yesterday down in Austin, but I know he spent some time here in Norman actually back in the spring, kind of during spring practice, did some sit-down interviews with Brent Venables and some of the staff here and just kind of looking into the future. But, yeah, looking forward to being on his show today. I know he's having on, I think, his show today, every single coach for every single sport here at OU, kind of promoting the athletics. Because I know everybody wants to talk about football, and then obviously that's king here at Oklahoma. But, some of the other programs here have had a lot of success. Obviously the softball team Baseball's coming off a really successful year. Basketball has been on the up and up recently. So I know that that's kind of also what OU's pushing. This isn't just about football. Obviously, that's the moneymaker here, and that's what people care about most. But OU has had, historic success in a lot of different athletics.
Yeah, in fact, Paul will kick it off with Brent Venables coming up at the top of the hour. And, again, our listeners will hear that right here on 97.7 ESPN The Zone. All right, so this all sounds fantastic. And now that it's here, just give me a little bit of a sense. I mean, is everybody fan-wise and everything else, is everybody all in on this? Or is there any group of people, however small, that are like, be careful what we wish for? You know what I mean? Maybe this isn't, all that it's cracked up to be. Is there any negativity surrounding this move at all?
I think with everything, there's always, a group of people, no matter how small or large, that likes to disagree with certain moves. But I would say for the majority of OU fans, they're excited for this. I think that when you look at their history in the Big 12, I know they had a lot of success in football, especially winning 14 conference championships in 28 years. But I think that they understand that this is the direction that college athletics are taking. And when you look at the SEC, it is the best conference, not only for football, but for a lot of sports. And the money that they're going to be making in this conference is only going to help OU as a school and an athletic department. And I think also they understand that if you want to be the best, which Oklahoma has a history of being one of, if not the best program, certainly in terms of winning over the last century, you have to play the best. And they understand that the SEC is a different level in a lot of ways, but I think that there's also a lot of cautious optimism that they are going to be able to compete. I don't know about next year. You look at that schedule, and it's going to be really tough for the football team to win 10 games and compete for a championship. But I think that Oklahoma fans want to prove that they are a blue blood in college football and have been, for years. And so I think that most fans are very excited. They're very fired up, and they feel like they have something to prove in the SEC.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, you got to take away the Alamo Bowl because these bowl games now, who's playing and everything, that makes a big difference. Arizona tagging Oklahoma in that game there. But coming off of last season, we'll get to the schedule in a minute. Coming off of last season, where is this football team in terms of, Brent Venables getting it to the point where, the expectations are for Oklahoma fans?
Yeah, look, I think coming into this season, there's, like I said, a lot of optimism that they can exceed expectations. I think that, Vegas has their over-under at 7.5 wins, and I think a lot of OU fans take that as pretty big disrespect, and I think a lot of OU fans think they can win 9 or 10 games and maybe sneak into the 12-team college football playoff. And, you look at the defensive side of the football, obviously that's where Brent Venables' specialty is. There's a lot of people that think this is going to be the best Oklahoma defense in the last decade. And I know that's not saying much because the OU defense under Lincoln Riley was not good, but I do think that they have a chance to be a top 20 caliber defense when you look at their returning production, what they got in the transfer portal, especially on the defensive line. Getting Dominic Williams in the spring portal, the best defensive tackle in the portal in April. So I think that they feel really good about that side of the ball. And then on the offensive side of the ball, you have a new offensive coordinator with Jeff Lebby, going to Mississippi State to be the head coach there. Seth Littrell is somebody that takes over, is very experienced. I don't think you're going to see a lot of change in what they're doing offensively, but you do have a lot of turnover. You lose Dylan Gabriel. He's at Oregon now. There's a lot of faith in Jackson Arnold, 5-star quarterback, but super young. And you mentioned the Alamo Bowl. We saw it in that game. There was flashes of greatness. There was also flashes of being a freshman and turning the ball over. But I think that he's got a lot of weapons around him, a very good receiving core that they think is one of the best they've had in a long time. But the real issue, Tom, at least for Oklahoma, is the offensive line. They're replacing all 5 starters from last year. They had to go into the portal and get a lot of guys to come in and probably start for Oklahoma, as well as some young guys that may have to start as freshmen or sophomores. And that's kind of the big question mark. I think everybody thinks, he's going to have a really good defense. I think that everybody believes in Jackson Arnold and the weapons around him. But the big question mark and what could be the difference between winning 7 or 8 games or 9 and 10 games is that offensive line and their ability to protect Jackson Arnold and give him the time to deliver down the field to some of those weapons that I was talking about.
Why does Dillon Gabriel leave? I mean, was he reading? Was the writing on the wall that they wanted to make the move at quarterback, or is this something that did you get a pile of money thrown at him? I mean, why do you leave Oklahoma to go to Oregon?
Here's the big thing with that is Oklahoma's betting on Jackson Arnold, and the plan all along was for Dillon to actually go to the NFL after this last season. But once he got his draft grade back, which was he was going to go undrafted, he didn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. He said, I need to play one more year of college football. And, Oklahoma basically said, hey, we're investing in Jackson Arnold, who has 3 more years of eligibility left, where Dillon Gabriel only has 1. And while I'm sure a lot of people would rather have Dillon Gabriel next season, the talent and the potential and the ceiling of Jackson Arnold is much higher. And, we can talk a lot about this coming year, and it's a big year for Brent Venables and his staff and this team. But 2025 has kind of been the year that Oklahoma fans and I think this Oklahoma coaching staff has kind of circled as, okay, that's the year that we make our move. And obviously Dillon Gabriel would be out of eligibility in 2025. You probably lose Jackson Arnold to the transfer portal. Dillon Gabriel comes back. And so Oklahoma's taking a gamble. I think there's a good chance Oregon's going to be really good next year, probably makes the college football playoff. Dillon Gabriel's going to be really good next year. But OU's betting on the long-term ceiling and the success of Jackson Arnold. And that's why they ended up making that decision.
George Stoya with us here from Soonerscoop.com. All right, we know a little thing or two about rivalries over here, and what a win in the Iron Bowl or the Egg Bowl or the cocktail party or the Deep South Hold'em rivalry. We know what that means for your schedule. Oklahoma tags Texas in the Red River Shootout, and I'm going to continue to call it the Red River Shootout because that's what it is to me, the Red River Shootout. So you tag Texas there, hand them their only loss there in the regular season, then turn around and lose in Bedlam, turn around and lose to Kansas, and then in Bedlam, does the win in the shootout offset losing to Kansas in Bedlam, or is it like, no, wait a minute, we can't be losing those games?
Yeah, I think that if you ask any OU fan, the one game that is their one, if they can pick one game to win every year, it is definitely Texas. So I do think that it offsets that. Now, losing Oklahoma State in the last Bedlam was definitely tough, and especially the way they lost. I think a lot of OU fans felt like they were the better team that day and really all season. Just too many turnovers. I think they had three or four fumbles in that game that ended up costing them. A couple on bad snaps that set up touchdowns for Oklahoma State. So you look at that game and you're like, man, Oklahoma really probably should have won that one. So that one certainly stings. The Kansas game as well, too many turnovers, and a team that, Kansas is certainly better than they used to be. But that was certainly a game that I think Oklahoma fans walked away saying we should have won those. And that's why you look back at last year, and I know you look at the record 10-3, and like you said, you kind of throw the Alamo Bowl out of that. But there was a lot of OU fans that felt like they should have been 11-1, 12-0, playing for a Big 12 championship, playing Texas again in that Big 12 championship, and possibly getting to the playoff instead of Texas. And really, those two games, those two losses, they were a couple plays away from winning both of those games, at least one of those games. And it may have been a different outlook, and maybe we'd be talking about Oklahoma a little bit differently heading into 2024.
There's no doubt about it. George Stoya with us here talking about this Oklahoma football team and what the expectations are. Now, you mentioned the schedule. We take a look at the schedule. Obviously very manageable to get things started, and then it starts getting a little bit hairy. The first SEC game that they will play, and I won't even say ironically, I'm sure that this was rigged this way, set up this way. Josh Heupel returns to Norman with his Tennessee Volunteers. And, so that one there, you point at that one right there, and right off the bat, it's a huge, huge game.
Yeah, no, Tennessee coming to town, and they have some history there, obviously, with Josh Heupel, but even goes back to, playing at home in 2014 and beating them, and then obviously the infamous 2015 game where Baker Mayfield kind of asserted himself there in Knoxville back in 2015. So, that's a huge game to start it off, and I think Tennessee's kind of in a very similar spot as Oklahoma heading into this year. They've got a young quarterback, a team that they feel cautiously optimistic about, or maybe others aren't talking about them as much. So I think we're gonna find out kind of what Oklahoma and Tennessee are made of early in the season. And then the game that, I'm really interested is that second one going to Auburn. I don't really know what to make of the Tigers, but that's a really tough first road game for Oklahoma in the SEC. Again, I don't know how good Auburn's going to be next year, but that atmosphere, especially with a young quarterback and a young offense and a whole group of new guys over there, I think is going to be a really tough test for Oklahoma. And then obviously head into Texas, that's always the big one. But I think in those, like you mentioned, those first few games, especially in the SEC with Tennessee and then at Auburn, you're kind of going to know how the season might go for Oklahoma.
Yeah, and South Carolina will be sporty, especially right after the shootout. And then you got a trip to Ole Miss. A lot of people think Ole Miss is a playoff team this year. That'll be tough. Of course, the Crimson Tide come in late in the year before a trip to Baton Rouge to finish it up. I mean, I got to be honest with you. When I look at this thing, and by the way, at SEC Media Days, I always pick every single game, and we kind of feature that at the end of our run at SEC Media Days. I pick every single game in the league. And right now, just off the top of my head, I'm feeling like an 8-4 kind of vibe for Oklahoma. But I don't know where the pain threshold is, where success is. Is it 9 wins? Is it anything over the 7.5 that Vegas has, which I agree with you, I think is low. What's your thought process?
Yeah, look, if they win 9 games next year, I think that's a really good year. And you look at the schedule, like you mentioned, especially that back half where you have to go to Ole Miss, who I think is going to be really good next year, to Missouri, who a lot of people kind of think is a dark horse in the SEC. You get Alabama at home. Well, what does that look like with a new coaching staff and a lot of turnover there on its roster? And then you finish the season at LSU, which we all know is a tough place to play. And so I look at that back half of the schedule, and that's going to be the difference because I do think Oklahoma, if they can get through the first 6 games, get through Tennessee, Auburn, and Texas, and they only have maybe 1 loss out of that, then all of a sudden you're looking at that back half. And if you can win some of those toss-up games, which I think Ole Miss and Missouri, especially at LSU, those 3 road games, if you can win 2 of those 3, you've got a really good shot at winning 9 or 10 games. And I think with that schedule, if you go 9-3, you could sneak into the college football playoff because of the recognition of the SEC and how tough that schedule is. So I think if you go 9-3, it's a really good season. I think if you go 8-4, it's okay. It's solid. You can get away with that. I think anything less than that is probably a little bit of a disappointment. 7-5, just depending on how those losses go. And then if you get 10 or more wins, you're talking about a really, really great season. Yeah. And you're talking about really exceeding expectations.
9 could be dicey depending on who the 3 losses were to, I guess, and who the wins are. You know what I mean? It's better to be upset. I think you'd have a better shot getting in if you lost to South Carolina, if you beat Texas, for example. You know what I mean? If you have a win, I think the good wins, like if you beat Texas and you beat Alabama, you got tripped up by South Carolina, I think you can overcome that. But if you only beat who you're going to be favored over and don't beat any of these teams that, you're going to be a dog to, then I think that's where it comes in for sure. All right, going to be a lot of talk about where rivalries, fit in here. This Texas-Oklahoma thing. I mean, we got some really good ones here. My son does a show earlier in the day on this, Aaron. He put it only behind the Iron Bowl. I don't know how Florida-Georgia fans feel about that. I don't know how Auburn-Georgia fans feel about that. Forget about the Egg Bowl. That's nothing. But, I know that a lot of SEC fans are very interested to see what that Texas game feels like as an SEC game.
Yeah, and I can't speak to the Iron Bowl. I've never been to. I've never been to Florida, Georgia, and all those games. But I can tell you that there are a few atmospheres, if any, better than OU Texas, and I think it's going to fit right in with the SEC. There's a lot of hatred, I would say, between those 2 schools. I think there's also a little bit of respect in some sense, whereas maybe there isn't as much between Texas and Texas A&M. But I think it's going to fit right in. That's a game that both teams have circled on their schedule every year as a must-win. I think that a lot of times you look at that game and it kind of, plays a lot into how your season ends up going, and that's even when you lose. I mean, you look at Texas last year, I think that loss kind of turned their season around in terms of motivation to get to the Big 12 championship where they thought they're going to get to play Oklahoma again. But I do think that it's up there in the same tier as the Iron Bowl, as the game between Michigan and Ohio State. Like it is up there in that category as one of the best rivalries, not only in college football, but I think in all sports.
Why did Bedlam have to go away? I mean, we got Florida State. We got Clemson in South Carolina. You know, we still have these rivalries that are outside of the conference. Why did Bedlam have to go away? Why can't they play that game?
Well, I think it's going to come back, and you're going to see OU and OSU play in every sport but football, is my understanding. And part of the reason it went away in football, I think it was a little bit of sour grapes from some people in Stillwater, but also Oklahoma State and OU both have their non-conference schedules pretty much scheduled out for the next 10 years. So I think that until that 10 years is up, it's hard to get out of those game contracts. And I think that they probably could have done it. It would have cost them quite a bit of money for both schools to do that. But I do think that maybe it was a combination of sour grapes on one side, as well as both schools kind of having those contracts for non-conference games already lined up and making it kind of difficult to get out of those. But I do think eventually, sometime in 2030 or so, which will be here quicker than we realize, I think that you're going to see the two sides play again.
I'm Mike Gundy acting like, like he hates losing a game. He's so happy to be out of that game as he can taste it. Are you kidding me? It's crazy. By the way, the recruiting aspect of this whole thing, Oklahoma right now sitting 6th in the composite rankings, well ahead of Texas, which is down a little bit further than that, and down at 19th. So certainly Brent Venables off to a great start to this upcoming recruiting season, giving the SEC a third team in the top 6, along with Alabama and Georgia. So, it still takes players, and Texas A&M right behind them. So, 4 of the top 7. It takes great players. There's no doubt about it. And, Oklahoma not having much of a problem recruiting right now as an SEC school.
Yeah, no, they've done a really good job, and especially on the defensive side of football, because we know when Lincoln Riley was here, he was able to bring in, top quarterbacks and receivers and skill players and offensive linemen. Oklahoma's continued to do that, but now you're seeing it flip on the other side of the ball too, where they're landing some big defensive tackles, which you need to have in the SEC to have success. Some linebackers, some safeties, corners. They're starting to land some of these top-tier guys on the other side of the ball, and you mentioned it. Look, they have a chance to land their 4th straight top 10 class, which Lincoln Riley never did at his time at Oklahoma. So I think that that's a huge step in the right direction. And why, again, I know it's been kind of a bit of a bumpy start for Brent Venables, especially his first year. Last year, you saw a lot of improvement. But when you look at what they've done recruiting-wise, that's why there's a lot of belief in him for the long term.
Always good stuff. George Stoya has been our guest from Soonerscoop.com. George, outstanding. Enjoy the Paul Feinbaum show. I'm glad that we scooped you there on from Sooner Scoop, and I'm going to keep your number, man. I mean, we talk football pretty much all year round here, so we're going to have to keep your number.
Awesome. Anytime, Tom.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Thank you, George Stoya. All right, we're going to break in here. Speaking of recruiting, the calendar has turned to July. Let's take a look at where things are in the recruiting. We'll take a look at that. Also, like I said, NBA and NHL free agency is open. The Nashville Predators have made a big deal. We'll let you know about that. But we'll get the phone lines open. That's the biggest thing. We'll get the phone lines open at 256-576-4977. You want to jump on board, you can do it. Officially welcoming Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC is a big deal. Now, talk about anything else that's going on in the world of sports, you can get into that as well. And I was thinking about, since we're going to be in Dallas for the All-Star Weekend, was thinking about maybe it would be kind of cool to go to the Home Run Derby. But is that a bucket list thing? I'll tell you what that costs to get into the building. Next on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, the Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandy Man. At noon, it's the Thom Abraham Show. followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the fifth straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Division crown.
Jared Kelnick going to go back to the wall. Kelnick will leap, and Jared has got it! Yes, sir! You betcha!
Tomorrow night, the National League battles continue for the Braves as Matt Chapman and the San Francisco Giants roll into Truist Park. Braves Radio goes on the air at 6:05 Eastern, 5:05 Central on the Atlanta Braves Radio Network.
This will turn journalism on its ear.
Watch our stream on WZZN TV on Twitch and YouTube.
But you are the greatest hero in American history.
We are 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
You know, it's freezer season out at Owen Home Appliance Center. So if rising temps have that freezer on its last leg, check out the brand name frost-free upright and chest freezers they have at Owen Home Appliance Center. I've been talking to Mike Owen over the weekend because I got my eye on an outdoor kitchen, and he's got a spectacular all stainless steel outdoor kitchen with a pizza oven and a grill and a sink. I think it might have a little fridge with it. I'm not sure, but it is really nice. It's really nice, and I'm going to pull the trigger on it. I know I'm going to do it. I was scoping out the spot for it and everything. I'm going to pull the trigger on it. I mean, it's incredible over that Owen Home Appliance, especially their showroom down in Lacey Springs. You got to go check that out. And while supplies last, you get a $50 gift card towards the purchase of Wagyu beef when you purchase a freezer from Owen Home Appliance. Now, Owen Home Appliance Center. Yeah, quality products, quality pricing, quality service. It's all right there in the name. All right, phone lines are open if you want to get in. You can do that. 256-5764-97.7 will get you into the show. Sky is falling. We know that, post Nick Saban, the talent is just not going to come to Alabama anymore. Kalen DeBoer, unable to recruit in the South. We know that. He's going to have to just do it with whatever's left over from Nick Saban. In the recruiting rankings, Alabama for the 2025 season has fallen all the way to second. Ohio State is number 1. Alabama's number 2 through July 1 here. Georgia at number 3, followed by Notre Dame, Oregon, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Penn State, Clemson, and LSU. Other SEC teams, Tennessee at 11. Auburn at 13. Auburn was at 8. They lost 2 commitments in the last week, and they slipped a little bit to 13. We'll see if those kids come back or how that all works out. But they're at 13 right now. Michigan at 16, by the way, if you need them. Texas at 19. South Carolina at 21. Kentucky at 25. Missouri all the way down at 30. So some of these schools are struggling. Florida State, by the way, 35. Just ahead of Arkansas at 36. You know, if you're going to be a national contender, you can't be 35 in the recruiting rankings. I mean, that's not good. All right. You want to jump on board? You can do it. We get to the lines. We start in order of the longest wait with Brandon. Brandon, welcome to the show. How are you?
Man, I'm doing pretty good. I heard you said you hadn't heard from me in a month. And I told Moulton last week, I said, man, he ain't done 4 shows since Memorial Day.
No, I haven't done 4 shows.
Give him a hard time.
Yeah, I might have done 3 shows since Memorial Day. I don't know. Now, June, we get some time off in June. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
Well, you said you hadn't been on top of it. Well, we know you've been up at the Blue Ridge Boom Boom Room, so we know what you've been on top of. We won't talk about that right now. So
the Blue Ridge Boom Boom Room?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I'll tell you that. It was pretty good.
Yeah, Love Shack, whatever you want to call it.
Love Shack.
You were talking last week a little bit, well, the week before you went off, about people and steroids and these numbers when you were talking with Kerry. And I was friends with Bruce Sutter, who died. And oddly enough, today is Bobby Bonilla Day. And Bruce Sutter turned Bruce Sutter turned $4.8 million with the Braves into $50 million. That contract he got was nothing short of what Bobby Bonilla ever wished for.
Yeah.
He got 13% interest on that up till 1990 when he started getting the payment. That's a lot of money for a dude that only got 40 saves. I understand he got hurt when he got here.
Well, in contrast that with Jamarcus Russell, who got $39 million in his deal with the Oakland Raiders, to which he wildly underperformed. $35 million guarantee, and then another so much out of his regular contract. So he ended up getting $39 million. Up until a few months ago, he was an assistant coach at Williamson at his alma mater in down there in Mobile, and now he's got a court case going against him because they gave him he got $74,000 donation for a weight room, which he did. Nobody ever got the money except for him. He put the money in his account. I mean, that's pretty bad.
Yeah, if you got $40 million. And you're having still 75, something is bad wrong with your life. That's all I can say for that one.
I mean, you would think that $40 million, you could make $40 million. I don't care that you didn't have the career that you thought you were going to have. You got $40 million. You should be able to make $40 million last to beyond the time that you're age 35. I'm just saying.
Oh, I completely agree with you. And I was talking to Bruce about that, some of the real estate stuff I've done with him. And, man, he invested his money well. He was well taken care of. He had a bar downstairs that's bigger than most people's house. I mean, he had like 20 beer taps in his bar downstairs. It was something to behold. But he and I were talking about the steroid thing, and he brought up something that I thought, but I've never really said much about it on this show. He said everybody wants to talk about roids and hitters and all these people not being able to be in the Hall of Fame and keep them out forever. He said, but what people don't want to talk about is how much baseball has monkeyed with the baseball over the years. He said, when Bonds and them was hitting all them home runs, he said, look at the whole league. He said, the home run numbers were up for everybody. He said, because they were screwing with the ball then. He said, and they screw with the ball all the time now. He said, the ball has never been uniformly the same from year to year. He said, I know we had a dead ball era. He said, but I, as a pitcher, can tell you they have screwed with that ball more in the past 20 years than they did in the 80 before.
Well, they did. It was a ping pong ball for a while. It was a Titleist for a while there during the Bond years. And the ball was definitely jumping. It was a juice. The ball was juiced. There was no doubt about it. But they also took and lowered the laces, which was a big, big part of it when they made the laces a lot lower. When the laces were taller on the ball, the breaking pitches, broke more. And now they've kind of they've done that again. They've kind of brought those laces back up a little bit. So now you see the sweepers and the sliders and the ball breaking a lot more than it did for a period of time there. The laces that were almost non-existent, golf ball.
Well, and he and I were talking about that, and he, and now they were planning to do this 2 years ago, but what they're going to do with the golf ball, where if they hit the ball with the machine and it goes too far, you can't use it. So there's no advantage to having somebody's ball. But he was saying, he's like, they always want to talk about roids. They always want to talk about all this stuff. He said, but nobody ever wants to talk about how much the ball's been, like you said, juiced, how it's been monkeyed with, how they've changed the stitching in it, how they've changed the internals of what was in the ball to an extent. He said, and as a pitcher, he said, I'm leaning towards siding with pitchers. He said, but right's right and wrong's wrong. He said, and the ball that they were hitting then was way more juiced up than what these dudes are hitting now. He said, and baseball knew it. He's like, but they want to point the finger at these hitters and say, you're bad, but don't talk about what we did. Don't talk about what we did because we wanted to liven the home runs up too. And I just feel like that gets left out. And he was kind of adamant about it, and I know he's been gone about 18 or 20 months now. So I wanted to throw that on there. I really wanted to get him on your show before he passed, but he got sick. And back in October of 22, and he passed. So I wanted to put that out there and talk about that. And I also want to say, I know you missed it, the U20 Football League.
I saw that story. I saw it. You know what? That was a bunch of crumb-bum kids. I don't know where those kids had to pay to be on that team, on the U20 team. And if you looked at that video of that game, those kids were. I mean, the linemen were either fat or skinny or slow, and the players were. It was like a JV high school team. I mean, it was not good.
But I'm saying we're better than that. And if they beat us in the X Games in rollerblading or badminton or something. But the last major L we should ever took from Japan was the USS Arizona. But any of these contact sports, especially football, we ought to be ruling the roost on that. So I don't know who you know in that, but I don't care if we have to get you out there to coach it, and we have to listen for the beeping of your pacemaker.
The talent that I saw on that team, I wouldn't want to coach. They had white DVs, for God's sakes. I mean, the cornerbacks were white. I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, that was all you needed to see was fat linemen that couldn't move and corners that were white. It was daddy ball. It was you had to pay to be on the U.S. football team, the USA football team. It was ridiculous. But anyway,
we got to do better than that.
Yeah. All right, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, I saw that story, and I saw the video. I saw McAfee talking about it, and it was like, it seems stupid. One of my sons sent it to me. It seems ridiculous. We got beat like 41-20 or something. We got beat by 3 touchdowns by a Japanese team, the U.S. team. But it wasn't. It was a bunch of kids that paid to be on the team that couldn't make their JV high school team. I mean, it was literally. It was like, remember like when you were a kid and you get some Shoulderman pads and you get the old Hutch helmet and you go play in the neighborhood, like our street's going to play against your street. And that's the kind of players they were. Grumpy is up next. Grumpy, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. Hey, man, let's rapid fire this. Okay, Wheeler and then Smith Lake back-to-back weeks. That's great. It's in Alabama. But who makes the decision not to go to Guntersville?
There's a
Bass
lot
Master
of different.
Is what we're talking about.
Yeah, there's a lot of different factors. Yeah, Bass fished Wheeler and Smith Lake. There's a lot of different factors that go into that. The number of other tournaments that were going on there. I know that FLW or MLF or whatever they call it now, they had a couple of events there this year. So, I know that there's been a desire to kind of give Guntersville a little bit of a break from Bass and show some different places because they were going there every single year for a while. My guess is they'll be back there either next year or for sure the following year. They had never been to Smith Lake before. And part of it is, too, these towns, they bid, they pay for Bass to come in. And it's a pretty good chunk of change, you know what I mean? So Coleman put up some pretty good money to bring them down there. It was a very interesting tournament it was won by Tako Ito, for those of you that don't know. And the amount of spotted bass that were caught out of Smith Lake was amazing, but they're all 2-pounders. I mean, they're so small. I didn't realize that. I didn't think it would. And I fished Smith in one tournament, and I was surprised how low the weights were. Taco Ito wins the thing at 58 pounds, which is like 14 pounds a day. But he had a 5.5 pound or 5 pound, 12 ounce spotted bass with an hour to go or 2 hours to go in the tournament to win the $100,000 and win the tournament. But Wheeler really shined. Wheeler was very, very impressive.
So the guy that was on here earlier talking about the flying to Vegas for a couple $100, where was he flying out at?
Nashville.
Florida.
You can get to Nashville. $121. You can go direct from Nashville to Dallas. Oh no, the one to Vegas. He was Southwest Florida to Vegas, but everybody's cheap flying to Vegas because there's so many. There's a lot of competition.
Yeah, I've got several goddaughters, and I fly them into town, and we always drive up to Nashville and then drive back. That way you can spend more time with them. You know what I mean? But now Breeze Airlines, I'm flying to Vegas for like $300 out of Huntsville, and that's impossible back in the day. I mean, it's like $300. Hey, quick question here, man. Let me just say this: I've been to the cocktail party. I've been to Auburn, Georgia, in both locations. I've been to the Iron Bowl in both locations. But as far as impressed, the Texas-Oklahoma game that I went to was phenomenal. I'm talking with that state fair and 250,000 people around the stadium, plus another 100,000 for the stadium. But what made it phenomenal that the other places don't have is there is a city bus station, nice, clean, air-conditioned buses that is right next to the state fairgrounds. So you can wake up anywhere in Dallas, which is huge. Anywhere in Dallas you can wake up. You can start partying or whatever you're going to do. You can pack a backpack. You can get on an air-conditioned bus. They will drop you off at the stadium on a schedule, and you can get on that bus and take it home. And you don't have to drive. You don't have to worry about it. None of the other venues have that.
11 o'clock in the morning. So that's a thing. That's when they play the Michigan-Ohio State game, too, 11 o'clock in the morning or noon Eastern time for those guys. But 11 o'clock in the morning Central time. So there's that. The cocktail party is the only one of the ones that you mentioned that is now, that is still a neutral site. I wonder if they had built a full-size stadium in Birmingham. I know UAB built that 40,000-seat stadium, which is a very nice stadium. But I wonder if they had built rebuilt a full-size 80,000-seat stadium, whether or not there would be any chance at all of getting the Iron Bowl back into a neutral site. Did you ever go to one in Birmingham before they started going back and forth?
I probably went to 8 of them.
What was it like there compared to on campus?
It was a different time. I don't want to complicate that question, but it was a different time. It was still hard to get a ticket. It was really hard. It was much harder back then to get a ticket, just to throw that little caveat in there. It had a feel of all of us that experienced college football in the 1980s, it had that feel to the max. But, that doesn't reach the level of what it is today because of the money. So it was as high as it could get in the 80s, if that answers your question. But it doesn't compare to today because everybody just seems to be so much more into it with all the if you get to know the players through social media and stuff like that. It's just a different ballgame now, man. I don't want to eat up your ear. Have a good one.
I appreciate you. It's a good job, Ian. Let's get breaking here. When we come back, phone lines remain open. So if you want to jump in, you can jump in. 256-576-4977 will get you into the show. We'll be back with more right after this. It's a Thom Abraham Show, 97.7 ESPN The Zone.
97.7 ESPN The Zone is the Tennessee Valley's #1 destination for the finest in sports talk all day long. Tune in to Talkin' Ball with Scott Tyson and Drew DeArmond each morning at 7. Then, The Morning Blitz with Captain Cool and the Bandy Man. At noon, it's the Thom Abraham Show, followed by Paul Feinbaum and The Drive with Wes Neighbors and Steve Moulton. The Zone is also your home for University of Alabama and UAH sports, plus the Atlanta Braves and the High School Sports Streaming Network. And sister station Talk Radio WZZN has Trash Pandas action with Josh Carey all season long. 97.7 ESPN The Zone and Talk Radio WZZN. Listen on the air or download the apps and take them with you everywhere.
Celebrate and honor those who have served our country. The annual Military Tribute Night at Toyota Field is Saturday, September 14th. For the 5th straight year, the USA Patriots amputee softball team will square off with the local veterans of AUSA. The patriotic extravaganza will be capped off by a post-game fireworks spectacular. Tickets are $10. Get yours at trashpandasbaseball.com/events.
Spring Showroom, just 8 miles south of the river on 231. You'll find a totally interactive showroom where you can hear the dishwashers wash and the freezers free and see the cookies get baked in the double ovens. Owen Home Appliance Center will even wash and dry a load of clothes for you so that you can see how great the products are. And they have ice machines making all kinds of ice, cubed, nugget, and top hat. How is that for variety? Owen Home Appliance Center believes in community involvement as well, sponsoring youth teams, race cars, and an annual Easter egg hunt. Quality products, quality pricing, quality service is the name of the game for Owen Home Appliance Center. Find them in Somerville and Lacey Springs and online at owenappliance.com.
From Coleman to Fayetteville and all points in between.
Son, pull the hammer back. Smokey's coming at you in a plain white wrapper.
97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
This is Paul Feinbaum. Listen to me coming up today at 2. Now back to the Thom Abraham Show on 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.
Yeah, welcome back, Thom Abraham Show. This segment of the show is brought to you by the fine folks at Minuteman Press. For all your printing and promotional needs, it's Minuteman Press. They're so good. They're so good doing what we do at the radio station that I had some stuff I needed done for the church, and I used Minuteman Press to do my stuff for the church. That's how good they are and how much I appreciate the work they do. They're very timely. They do it fast. They do a great job. It's Minuteman Press. Tremendous job by them. All right. The boys were out at HydraFest over the weekend. Tell me how that was, Bailey. How cool was this HydraFest thing that you guys went to at Gunnersville for downtown for the street festival on Thursday, and then, of course, over the weekend with the races?
Oh, it was fantastic. Like, I had never been to something like that before, like whatsoever, and it was a mind-blowing experience. I've never seen I never even thought boats could go that fast, let alone seeing about 12 different boats or hydroplanes out there in one day. It was hot and humid.
It's going to be amazing. Yeah, well, yeah, it will get that way in late June in Alabama. I mean, certainly it will. While I was up in the mountains, one of the days, I guess it was maybe the third day we were there, I said to my wife, I said, look, I had the golf clubs in the truck, and I said, this old Toccoa Farms place looks kind of cool. So I want to go over there and shag it around a little bit. So let me check this out. So I went over there. Old Toccoa Farms is called. It was ranked the number 8 new golf course in America in 2020 when it was opened. I have been playing golf for 50 years. I've been playing golf since I was 13 years old. I'm 63 years old. I've been playing golf for 50 years. I have been a member of at least 4 private country clubs over the years. I have played Harbor Town. I have played some great courses in Florida. I played in Hawaii at Wailea Country Club, which is an outstanding golf course. I have played Oak Hill, where they've played numerous U.S. Opens and PGAs. I played some great courses when I played college golf. In my 50 years of playing golf, I've never stepped foot on a piece of property that was as good as this piece of property. Forget the fact that it was mountain golf. Played some mountain golf in Hawaii. This is the only other place I played. I played some mountain golf in Arizona, too, which was beautiful. This mountain golf was unlike anything I've seen. All right? This is in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And the elevation changes and everything were incredible. I mean, it was just absolutely incredible. And thankfully, most of the elevation changes were you were teeing off from a higher elevation and it would be downhill. There were a few shots. It'd be a secondary shot. I hit I know you're going to laugh because I'm an old man, okay? I hit a 3-wood from 200. It was 205 yards, okay? I hit a 3-wood, all right?
Hey, if it makes you feel any better, that's about how far I hit mine.
So I hit a 3-wood. It was 205 yards. I hit a 3-wood uphill and out of the rough, light rough, and knocked it 10 feet below the hole. I kept looking all around the green. I was looking like I think it's short and right. It was a blind shot uphill, and it was like, I'm looking short, right, bunkers. My wife says, how come there's a ball on the green? We're just playing alone. She says, how come there's a ball on the green right below the hole there? Like, oh, my God, that's my shot. That's my ball. Missed the putt. But in any event, zoysia grass fairways that were, if you've ever played on zoysia grass fairways, you're walking, it's like the ground is so soft. It's like spongy. It's what I imagine Augusta is like. All right. The fairways were impeccable. There was not a weed anywhere to be seen, anywhere on the course except for in the grouse. There was areas in the grouse, that you had to hit over gulches and things like that, and it was native areas. But on the course, in the fairway or the rough, not a weed to be seen anywhere. The ball on those zoysia grass fairways, Bailey, sits up like it's on a tee. It's always on a tee. Ooh. It's never down. It's not that hard pan stuff where you're kind of like a little bit, trepidatious. You're gonna hit the ground and you're gonna feel the shock going through your arm or anything like that. Nothing like that. Soft as a pillow. The ball sitting up high. Every lie was perfect all around the green. Like when you miss the green and you're not hitting off a bare spot or a hard pan or anything else. It was the most spectacular conditioned golf course. This place is no more than 2.5 hours from where you're sitting right now. Ooh. All y'all listening. Yeah, everybody that's listening. This is in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Blue Ridge, Georgia. This is 2 to 2.5 hours away from where you are listening to me right now. That's it. I mean, it's 130 miles or so, 140 miles. But you got to go through the mountains, so it's a little bit, it's not like his highway goes all the way to it.
That sounds like I need to take a road trip here one weekend.
It is they've got cottages on the course that, people stay at the cottages on the course. It doesn't get a ton of play because it's out in the middle of, it's Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's not, of course I was playing there on a Wednesday or a Thursday. I guess it was Wednesday. I was playing there on a Wednesday. Nice little, not ostentatious clubhouse. Nice little place that we had dinner afterwards after I got done playing. Played late in the afternoon, teed off at 3:50. And it's called Old Toccoa Farms. I cannot recommend this place. Oh, and here's the other part. $95 for 18 holes, includes the cart, and all the range balls you can hit on a range that is an outstanding practice area. So the range balls are already up there. $95, guys, for a premium, golf course like this, including the cart. And the carts were, my gosh, the cart was better than my car. I mean, the seats in the cart were so comfortable, and it had, of course, the GPS, thing up there and tell you exactly where the pin is, how many feet in, and from the left and the right, and all that kind of stuff. You'd come to there's a lot of steep banks, where you're going down a hill on a cart path, because it's like you got to be a billy goat there. And it would say steep embankment ahead and, caution. I mean, it was incredible. Keeps your score up there as well. You put your scores in up there like in the bowling. It was incredible golf. It was absolutely incredible golf. All right, Bailey, I'm taking this right to the finish line, right?
Yep, sounds good.
Okay. All right. Just want to make sure that I was good there. Taking that thing right to the finish line. As I said, it's free agency opened up for the NHL today, for the NBA yesterday. There's been a lot of moves. Those of you that are NBA and NHL fans, you want to check that out. But for the Predators, Nashville Predators, they inked one of the top guys out there, Steven Stamkos, from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who's won, I think, 3 Stanley Cups, if not that, at least 2, if not 3 Stanley Cups. 34 years old now. He gets a 4-year deal. He was still very good last year, though, Steven Stamkos. He's going to be good for the next year or two. I don't know what it's going to look like when he's 37 or 38 and whether or not that's, they can buy it out at that particular point in time. I don't know how much is left in the tank. But when you get a guy that's won multiple Stanley Cups like that, it can't hurt. Having a guy like that on your roster can't hurt. So that's a big deal that is going on there. Of course, by now you've heard about LeBron James, who has opted out. That doesn't mean he's leaving the Lakers. He's just opted out so he can get a different deal. He was supposed to make $49 million this year, something like that. He's actually saying he'd take less. He opted out so he can take less so they can bring some other players in. Klay Thompson. Is Klay Thompson still out there?
No, he actually about 5 minutes ago, he has signed with Dallas.
Dallas. There you go. Which makes a lot of sense. LeBron was trying to get him to come to the Lakers. Dallas is a lot closer to winning a title than the Lakers are. Klay Thompson may make Dallas in the NBA. I mean, puts them in great shape. I mean, you got Klay Thompson, and you put him with Doncic and Kyrie Irving, and you got as good a big three probably as you want to have with that guy. So that's happening out there. But there's a lot going on in both the NBA and the NHL in the free agency. So keep an eye on that. Now, tomorrow's show will originate from over at Baumhauer's. So if you want to come out and see me at Baumhauer's, you can come out there and check that out. We'll be doing the show from Baumhauer's tomorrow. By the way, one other note is, I don't know if you saw this story. This is the 67 million to 1. What are 67 million to 1 odds? I'll tell you what they are. That's the odds of making 2 hole-in-ones in a single round. And on Friday at the Senior Open, 56-year-old dude, all right, not only did he have two hole-in-ones, Frank Benzel Jr., 2 hole-in-ones, back-to-back holes. You say, well, it's the Senior Open. You know what I mean? It's a Senior U.S. Open, so they're probably like 115-yard holes. 184 yards, makes a hole-in-one, goes to the next hole, 203 yards, makes a hole-in-one. Back-to-back. Unbelievable. All right, that's going to do it for us. Coming up next, the Paul Feinbaum Show, live from Norman, Oklahoma. Welcome to the SEC, Oklahoma and Texas. I'm Thom Abraham, and this is 97.7 ESPN, The Zone.